Howdy everybody, Douglas Scott McCarron. Um, Been a few weeks since I put out a video, like 3 weeks. Just had a lot going on in my life. I'm a bookkeeper, a lot of tax filings, personal stuff. And I'm not a professional YouTube, what is it called, influencer. I'm a guy sharing me. YouTube. That's what YouTube's about. I appreciate any donations, comments, things like that you make, but it's not my main focus to make money here like so many are. And also, I'm not here to talk about how someone else is a fool because they don't believe in what I say, which I've noticed a high proportion of YouTube videos seem to be. So I was just doing other stuff. It's kind of cold, that's why the hat. So it's cold time, so you'll see me in a hat for a few videos. Also, like usual, I got my a bit twisted merchandise if you're interested. A mug, got this bag, got a couple of bags, t-shirts, all sorts of clothes. So check it out on my website, dsmccarron.com. And then, Bob and Ruff are here, being my silent pals. But a couple of people have commented to me that my subject matter is all over the place. I need to focus because that way people will find me. But, my YouTube's about sharing my life. And so I do that. I studied theology, I studied history, I studied music. I used to be mean, vindictive, self-loathing, spiteful, and now I'm calm and peaceful. And I think that transition would be very valuable for a lot of people. There seems to be a lot of making others wrong, trying to be right, and not really being calm and peaceful in oneself. I don't know how common it is to be calm and peaceful, but I don't see a lot of it. I could just sit at home and be calm and peaceful and be happy, but given the amount of self-loathing and anger I see out in the world, I just want to share that as part of my sharing also. Apparently it's not constant for everybody. For some reason I have a fairly ongoing sereneness. Though, I get mad and snap at people. The difference is I get mad and snap at people and a minute or two later it's gone. Whereas before I was just endless grinding anger. So, yeah, I'm all over the place. In the future, there's a couple of music videos I want to talk about, how the songs are constructed, just for musicians out there. I have my 50 Steps to Guitar Greatness videos that teach music, and I think it's just kind of valuable. To me, seeing the structure behind how things work is probably as important, if not more important, than seeing the thing work. But today, I want to talk about the difference between the earth and the world, and something that seems to have been forgotten socially. Starting with, I studied history and theology. There's a lot of, people that laugh at people in the Middle Ages because they were afraid of falling off the edge of the earth. Those dumb, stupid people. But one of the things I learned studying history and theology is there's a distinction between the earth and the world. Many of us think those two words are the same thing. But earth comes from erd, which means it's this rock with water on it that we all travel around on and fly through space and spin around. And on and on. Something like, I think the Earth is spinning at 22,000 miles per hour. So every one of us is flying along around 22,000 miles per hour. But our experience is that we're stationary. But we're not. The world is one's inner understanding of who one is and how life operates and who everybody else is. It's not just a bunch of thoughts, it's a bunch of emotions and just very deep assumed feelings. It actually functions at the feeling level. The words are just kind of an expression of the feeling. But in the Middle Ages, when they talked about falling off the edge of the world, they didn't mean going out to some place and falling off the edge of a flat earth. They meant falling off your way of understanding what life is. When Galileo was talking and theoretically being imprisoned, he was imprisoned in the Duke of Siena or Tuscany's summer villa. Big terrible prison, a summer villa that belongs to a duke. And he was forbidden to leave the bishopric of Rome, which was about half of what is now Italy. So, that's horrible imprisonment. Another thing is, the book he's famous for was written after he was imprisoned and going blind. Which kind of raises the question, how did he write the book? He, I would suggest, had to have help. And the people watching over him while he was in prison were a bunch of literate people, mostly clergy of the Catholic Church. So I would suggest that the people who actually helped him write this book were monks and clerics of the Catholic Church, who then gave it to the church and they went, "That's okay, put it out." So what he got put on trial for wasn't that, it was other things, which I recommend you read a book called, The Sleepwalkers by Arthur Koestler. He has a chapter on Copernicus, one on Galileo, Tycho Brahe, and the whole political situation, what's going on, along with, the Lutherans were showing up. Luther used to call, I believe it was Copernicus, that Babylonian sorcerer or something along that lines. Which, biblically, calling somebody a Babylonian sorcerer is not good. Because the Lutheran Church didn't think of the Babylonians as wonderful people. But back to the world. The image of the world, you have this flat world. This is what I always saw. And on it, there was water, and there are hundreds of ships floating around, and there are buildings highly detailed. And all of these are the little things, the details in your life, that keep your attention focused right there. Like, you get born, you come out of the birth canal, you're getting squished and squashed, and you don't particularly like that, and you're crying. And then the first thing that happens is someone picks you up, and quite often they smack you on the butt to make you cry. And that's how you come into the world. And then, we tend to be very self-centered and get upset because our parents don't give us what we want. And so there's all this resentment that builds up. And then finally you get to be 18 and I can have it my way. And you go out there and stomp around and don't let anybody tell you what to do. Because you resent your parents having done it, or society, or whoever. And then as you get older, you start letting go of that. And eventually you start realizing that while all that's going on, that's not actually who you are. My name is Douglas, but that was given to me by my parents. It's just a made-up name. My personality is a bunch of, upsets from my childhood and understandings and explanations and looking out at the stars and wondering what they're about and coming with an explanation. It goes on forever. But that's an explanation of things. That's not what actually is there. That's the world. It's like you have this world full of things that make it up. feelings and upsets and pains. And then there's the edge of the world. It's quite often described as there be demons. But I suggest they aren't actually demons. I suggest they're the power of what you would bump into when you fall off the edge of your world, your perceptions, that inner dialogue, that inner feeling. That way, there, your like individuality gets kind of shredded. You go out into the undifferentiated void, for lack of a better word. It might actually, all those demons might actually be God tearing your separateness apart and bringing you back to the one. I've read things of that. Who knows? One thing I've learned is to not be absolutely certain of my explanation, because that's just another explanation of life. It's not what's going on. I've also noticed that when I have discussions, my brain's churning away, but there's always this like inner awareness that no matter where my mind wanders, it's always there, being present. And I suspect that's who I am, not my inner discussion. Another thing a religious professor pointed out to me is, okay, so you clean off the world. This is something to notice. I'm not the person who made this discussion up. I picked it up in religious studies classes and philosophy classes while I was in college. But, so you have this world with all these things on it, all these feelings and upsets, and they kind of interconnect with each other, and this triggers that, which triggers that, and you chase them around, try and explain the whole thing, and avoid being dominated, and on and on and on. Spend your whole, you could spend your whole life doing that, but I wanted to like stop that and wake up to whatever this inner awareness was. But you go in and you clean off everything. You finally enter this world where everything is off of it. And the professor said, so what's on the world? And we all sat around. Finally somebody said, well, there's nothing on the world. And the professor said, that's true. There's no thing on the world. What's on the world is the air. The air is on top of the world. The air encases the table, the world. The air connects to the air outside of the room and out in the sky and up into infinite space. The air goes on forever. And it's the air that gives us life, not our thoughts. He says that's a symbolism of what God is like. This whole there is no God, there is a God discussion that goes on, to me sounds like a bunch of people in their inner discussion being right and making other people's wrong. But it's not having the experience of the actual thing that gives you life. Inner thoughts will convince you that you have to be those thoughts. But those thoughts pass away and do whatever they want. Listen to your thoughts. They'll just wander without you or with you. They don't care. You just go on and on and on. So that was a kind of a shock. But the calming thing about it is, once you let go of that world, all of that inner tussle and upset and thinking just kind of stops. Because it wasn't really thoughts, it was an energy that kind of possessed my attention. And when it stops, it just stops. And suddenly this part of me that I never even knew existed just woke up. And I used to think the whole idea was to escape and fall off the edge of the world and go out into the abyss, the void. But now that I get that the wind was on the table, the air was on the table, it was there the whole time. Even when the 1,000 things that chased each other around and made me upset, the air was always there. It's just my attention was focused on the things. Not the no thing, for lack of a better word. You know, people get upset because you have this description of a God who you can't touch, you can't point at. It seems to give you life, but you can't actually control it or anything. Really upsets people, but that's kind of what the air is like. Some people say, well, the air has molecules. I know that people can use mathematics to describe what a molecule would be like, but I don't know how many people have actually seen one. I mean, molecules to me are just another intellectual discussion. It's just there's a big difference between an understanding of what life is and the actual flame of it. It's the difference between the earth and the world. The earth is a physical thing. The world is our internal thing. And it's not that the world is bad or the earth is bad. It's that you're trying to unify everything. You know, you have your body, your spirit, your thoughts, your breathing. What happens when you die? You know, who knows? In my understanding of Judaic thought, we're, this kind of, for lack of a better word, a lump of clay, and God breathes into the clay and you're alive. And then at the end, your breath goes away. Again, the air, it goes away. There's no eternal life, it's just God playing in its creation. Other people think their thoughts are who they are, and those go on forever, and then you got to get your thoughts straight and organize everything. I've also been reading the Yoga Sutras by, I believe it's called Patanjali or something like that. But one of the opening things that is said is there's a distinction between the body and the mind in the seer. It's not a witness, it's one who sees. A witness is kind of like, that's a kind of, AA, anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous kind of thing where you be neutral in what you're looking at. So you're not swept away by the emotions or the feelings or the addiction. Seer to me is someone who not only, it's like you see what's going on. Not as an opinion, not as a feeling, but you just kind of, you clean off your world and then you become aware of the air, and the air goes on forever. And you feel it and see it. That's what I think's important now. As far as I can tell, all the thoughts and beliefs and opinions just kind of pass away. I suppose you could die with them on you, but then, do you want to go into eternity being chased around by a bunch of thoughts and opinions and feelings? Don't know, there's a lot of discussion on that. But for me, discovering the air was there, even when all the things were there, was kind of a big, oh. Okay, thank you. Till the next time, Douglas, Scott, and Karen.